Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Gen X Dad and his Gen Z Teens podcast. This program takes a lighthearted look at generational differences about all sorts of topics. We explore everything from pop culture to history to relationships to politics, but only at a very shallow level. We don't aim to be controversial or to be the authoritative voice on any topic. We are not social scientists or scientists of any sort for that matter. We are just here to talk about the things that we think are important and that we will have fun talking about. Also, it is my opportunity to publicly and on the record prove that I am right and my teens are wrong in all cases, and that the 80s and the 90s were absolutely the best time to grow up. So, without further ado, our topic for today is Star Wars and the whole Star Wars universe and the effects on the different generations. So really, in a case, Gen X and Gen Z. So one of the biggest and longest lasting pop culture icons, if you will, are the Star Wars movies and all of the Star Wars universe that comes with it. The main movie, the original, hit the mainstream in 1977 and was just a major mega hit and had a huge impact on society as well as me personally. In fact, it had such a strong effect on me that I actually entered aviation because of Star Wars. I wanted to be Luke Skywalker and I wanted to fly an X-Wing fighter. And so as I grew older, I just had this fascination with aviation and eventually led me to joining the Air Force and becoming a pilot. Now, those movies from George Lucas, the first three, they came out in 1977 and The Empire Strikes Back in 1980 and then Return of the Jedi in 1983. Those were just amazing. People went to the movie theater over and over again. I remember seeing Star Wars itself at least 7 times. I mean, it's that emblazoned on my mind. I actually still remember I was not quite 4 years old, sitting there watching the movie and just captivated with everything about it. And I was not alone. I consider myself to be a big fan, but I am not as fanatical as a lot of people are in my generation. There are large chunks of Gen X, including many members of my Air Force Academy class, that point to Star Wars as a major influence in their career choices, certainly my classmates. And then we have several friends of the family that are big collectors of Air Force of Star Wars items. So along those lines, it was just a big deal, obviously, and they continue to be a big deal today. But my question now to my Gen Z teens, which we'll come to here in a second, is do they feel the same way about it as me and my generation? So just one more part of the history. After the first 3 movies, there was a 16-year break. And then the next 3 movies came, starting with The Phantom Menace around 1999. Unfortunately, these were not as well received as the original 3. It's always tough when expectations are hard, but there were certain aspects of the movies that George Lucas made, and in particular, again, I don't blame the young actor, but who he had as Anakin in the first movie, I certainly felt was too young and it really didn't fit of my expectation of what I thought Anakin would have been as a character. And I think that played into the next 2 movies going forward. Then there were the last 3 movies of the series. And those, I'll be honest, were also not very well received, with The Last Jedi, the middle one of the 3. I'll be honest, I just thought was terrible. my least enjoyable. And also in the last three, I just don't think they did a good service in the expectations of the generation that grew up with Star Wars as children, and they left Mark Hamill out and made his character in the second movie not very fun to watch when we were all looking forward, when so many of us had grown up wanting to be him, and they made him to some degree in a caricature of himself. So disappointed with the last three movies, although I think all the actors and actresses that put their hearts and soul in it, it was just hard to recover after that second movie. So along those lines, that's a little bit of my opinion. We'll start talking about the Star Wars universe, but let's start with you guys with what did you think of the movies? Do you remember the first time you saw them?
I don't necessarily remember my first time seeing them, but I do definitely remember them. They were all good movies. I thought kind of all of the original Star Wars, like the pre-Disney ones, were all pretty good, and I enjoyed all of them. I thought they were all good.
I kind of agree with that. I don't really remember seeing the first three, but I do remember really liking. I think it was episode 3. I don't remember the name of it, but that was I think that's my favorite Star Wars movie. But I don't really remember all the other ones.
Gosh, see, that's the generational difference. I know all the names. I know all of them. So with that, we talked about that because that was something that, again, I looked forward to actually watching these movies with you guys. That was a big deal for me. Now, along those lines, you guys had a lot of the toys. We had a lot of lightsabers. In fact, you guys, do you remember your Halloween costumes? We had several years where you guys went as Star Wars characters. Do you remember that at all?
I don't really remember that, but I do remember, having all like the toys and whatever stuff. And I mean, I thought it was a really great movie or really great series, and kind of the story of it. It was it was cool.
Do you remember your favorite character? It was one of your first Halloween costumes.
Yeah, I always loved Darth Vader.
Yes. God, you were obsessed with him. And I kept telling you, no, that's the wrong guy to like. You got to like everybody else, but you love Darth Vader. All right, what about yourself?
I remember one time, I don't know, it's the only thing I remember about the Halloween costumes. I just remember a stormtrooper costume, but that's all I remember.
Well, you were really little when your older brother did the Darth Vader, so guess what we had you dressed as? You were still in the stroller. Do you want to guess? It was a little guy in the movie. Guess.
Yoda.
Yes, you went as Yoda. Yeah, you'd be Baby Yoda now, but not at the time. You were just a little. Well, you wouldn't have no memory of that. But you guys did Darth Vader. You did Stormtrooper. Jango Fett, I think, was the next year for my older son. But yeah, we had a whole lot, and then you had a lot of friends. Now the movies. Just a lot of people were excited in doing that. Okay. You also had a lot of Lego toys and video games. So tell me a little bit about the video games. We had a bunch of the video games. Do those stand out to you? Do you look forward to ever think about replaying some of those video games?
Yeah, I remember I had the Lego Star Wars, I think, for the DS, which I love that game. I remember it was really fun. So yeah.
The only thing I remember is that Lego Star Wars game on the DS. The road trips that I had when I had that were the best things ever.
Okay, but hold on. We got the game system from Disney or whatever that had the characters, the little characters that you put on top. They discontinued it. We have a ton of the characters, and it was part of the video game. I forget what it's called. They had the commercial. They discontinued it, but we've got all the little characters. All right, they're both shaking their heads saying they don't remember anything, but they do, sorta. Okay, so here's where, again, this was hugely impactful on my generation, and I'm going to throw this out there and ask a question why I don't think it's quite the same impact level on you guys? And do you think that it is because at the same time that you guys were starting to watch movies and everything else, that it was competing against Marvel and Harry Potter?
Yeah, I think that was part of it. There was just a ton of other stuff. Like I think kind of when it came out, there really wasn't much like it. But kind of as we were growing up, there was a ton of stuff that was kind of like it, so it wasn't as unique.
Okay, and that's why. Because otherwise, I think you would be super fans like I am. Okay? Well, let me ask you this. What about the Star Wars spinoffs? So now think about all the spinoffs for a minute. You've had separate standalone movies, Rogue One, Han Solo, Star Wars Rebels, Clone Wars, Bad Batch, Obi-Wan, and Mandalorian. We'll talk a little bit about Mandalorian. Do you remember those? Do you look forward to any of those? Have you rewatched any of those?
Yeah, I mean, I've seen a few of those, and they're all pretty good. I just think it's starting to get to where it's like there's just too much to keep up with, so I just kind of haven't seen as much.
The spin-off movies I think are okay. And some of the spin-off shows are good, like Star Wars Rebels, The Bad Batch, and Clone Wars. I think those ones are really good. But the Obi-Wan show and stuff like that, except for Mandalorian, all the spin-off shows really aren't that good, in my opinion.
Your opinion is terrible. They are all awesome. We must watch them all. Okay. All right. Well, The Mandalorian, that one caught the world. Tell me a little bit about what you think about The Mandalorian, because we do watch that.
Yeah, I think that's definitely one of the better spin-offs that they've done and one of the better just kind of Disney Star Wars things. Yeah, I think it's pretty cool.
At first, The Mandalorian was like really cool to me, and the first couple of seasons were really good, but I don't think the last one was as good as the first couple.
Ooh, okay. It's fighting words for some people out there in Gen X. Okay. Well, let's try and tie it all together a little bit with just, again, the generational difference. So one of the major things, Disney bought Star Wars in 2012. Okay? So prior to 2012, you had the original 3 movies. Then it was 16 years before you got the next 3 movies, which were the prequels. And then there was a little bit of just some Clone Wars in there. Be honest, I'd have to look up the dates, but all the rest, most of the standalone and the spin-off stuff didn't happen until after Disney bought it. So I want to hear your opinion. What do you think? Is there's a lot more content now, but is it quality? Are you encouraged to watch it? Are you watching everything that comes out?
I'm not watching everything because, like I said earlier, like there's just kind of too much at this point. I'm like just can't keep up with it. So I watched a few or some of it, but not all of it.
Kind of the same thing for me. There's just really like too much, and the story's like too far in. I mean, you basically need to do like a couple of hours of research just to understand all of it, at least.
No, you are both wrong. It is great that we don't have to wait 16 years for new content, and there is never enough content. Unless it's The Last Jedi, then don't make anything more like that. That was terrible. Bring Mark Hamill in more. Bring everybody in and make more. Andor was awesome. I can't wait for the second season of that. I really liked Ahsoka with what they're doing. I really like the way they finally have tied everything sort of together between Rebels and Clone Wars and Bad Batch. I think there is so much that they can still continue to do, and I look forward to it all. So with that, let's finish up with, do you look forward to more content, or are you pretty neutral on it?
Yeah, I mean, I hope like whatever new movies they have planned or whatever is good, and yeah. Interested to see what they put out.
Yeah, you sound motivated.
I think if they keep on doing the spinoffs, it's slowly gonna die off. And I'm personally not that interested in the spinoff shows. I think if they went back to like the movie style, I think it would be better, and if they actually made good movies.
Well, there you have it. In this case, certainly, I think if there are any Gen Xers listening to this, Gen Z is out of their mind. But that being said, I think more content. I look forward to it more, and I want to thank you guys for participating today. This one, you are definitely wrong. You should like Star Wars way more, and you should be looking forward to everything that they ever produce. George Lucas was a genius, and I hope he continues to influence and encourage more content going out. For everybody, though, that's our podcast for today. Thank you for listening in. If you enjoyed the episode, please hit follow for more. We're putting these out on a weekly basis and having a lot of fun doing it. Other than that, thank you. And again, keep an eye out for the next episode of the Gen X Dad and his Gen Z teens. Take care.